feel like I have a hard time listening to my own voice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to hang on to that and then
Oh.
start answering? Or do you...
I think like I'd probably do better if it's just conversational. I don't really like want to look at this, but
Okay, cool. I guess I think my first question was like, how did like get into dance? Was dancing like always part of your life?
sorry. Is this too loud?
Huh?
Is this too loud?
No, you sounded good too, and because it's the mic inside.
Yeah, I just could hear the music. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I guess like how dance like came into your life.
So my mom's sister, her younger sister, she actually did like popping and stuff in high school, high school and junior high when she was in school. And yeah, so she learned like boogaloo and like, just like she used to dance to like Debbie Deb and like Berlin and all these like old popping like techno pop. I don't know if you know like 80s kind of music. So she would always be like that person like that would oh come on, I'm her godson. She'll be like, come on, let's dance, and then she'll like do like regular two-step. And I think at a young age I was always like interested in dance because like when someone would dance, like people would be like, hey, and I wanted that attention like already. Like at 4 or 5 I was like, I want to do that. I want people to scream for me. So like at family parties, like I was just like, okay, everyone watch me, just like, this is my move. Just this. But I like just imagine like little 4-year-old like walking in the dance floor and just like in the middle of everyone, like look at me. But yeah, anyway, she taught me how to do like arm waves. Is like the first thing I learned, and like just like simple control of my fingers and stuff like that. And then of course Michael Jackson. Like growing up at that age, like my mom would play Jackson 5, and then Michael Jackson was probably like after his prime, like like after like Thriller and all that, like in the 90s. He was still like a big artist, so I was always like watching Michael Jackson. That's how I first started with dance. But then like I think like in middle school, that's when like Usher and like Lil Jon and like all this kind of music started to come out, this hyphy music, and crip walking. So like yeah, I was still in that mindset, like I want to look cool, like I want that attention, like I want people to look at me. So when we had like school dances and stuff, I would be like freestyling, because I already knew like some stuff from my godmother teaching me, So yeah, I thought I was all cool and stuff. And then in high school, I joined all male, and that kind of like introduced me to choreography, because I was just like a freestyler before that. And I always wanted to do choreography, but I didn't know that it even existed in like my world. I felt like I lived in this little bubble. And when I found out about all male and like just like there's dance teams, like this is when YouTube first came out too. So it's like GRV and like CG and Kaba, and like GRV was kind of a newer team, but Kaba and CG was still like a baby. I know CADC and Kaba were like the first teams that everyone were like, oh, and TM. But yeah, well, like when I first got introduced to the dance community, like through all male, like all the all male dancers were like, you need to watch these like videos, right? And I was like, all right. So we on YouTube for like hours just watching like Kaba Modern and like Team Millennia, and it's like, dude, I want to do that. Like I didn't even know this existed. Like I want to do that, And then all male kind of like gave me that like first introduction, because I saw them perform at like a competition too. All male is just like a dance program for high school, but it's just all like an all male dance team. Yeah. And so I did that in high school, and that like led me to do solos, and I ended up choreographing with John Tiang, who did like Barcada Modern and Natural State, and he did Criminals with me. We ended up choreographing like our own like numbers for our senior year, for all male, and we ended up like sweeping that year, like getting first place, which was kind of crazy because we couldn't afford choreographers, and me and JT were like, why don't we just do it ourselves? Like, let's just do it ourselves. We know how to block. Like, we're not that great choreographers right now, but we know how to make it look good at least, levels and like.
So was it like a competition between like schools and stuff?
Yeah, so like a lot of, yeah. So during that time, we were getting trained by GRV people. John Hall had like went to our school prior to that, and then he joined GRV, and then so we had like people like David Lim, Big Jeff, and John, of course, because he was alumni from my high school. So they would come in and teach from time to time, and then like other alumni that were doing like Collaborate. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're more like performance-based team. They like more industry kind of style. But yeah, they had a lot of people come and teach us. We had a lot of good teachers. But yeah, I remember that year, like all of us were broke. Everyone had bad grades. We were all about to get kicked off the team and stuff. So it was like, yeah, it was funny. But yeah, we ended up I ended up getting first place in my solos too. And it's crazy because the year prior to when I first started competing, actually the first year I did my solo, I got like 11th or 12th place, and I was like super sad about it. Like, damn, like I suck. Like, I'm not as good as I thought, But the 2 years after that, I got first place back to back. So like, it's crazy to think like from 11th to first, and then the year after I got first again. So I like had to like hold my title,
Do you feel like your motivation at that time was still kind of like, or had it evolved since like?
I think during that time, it moved from, oh, I want to look cool, I want attention, to I want to win. Like, I want to beat everyone. Like, so. I think it was more so like, I want to prove it to myself that I can get first place. So like, it was weird because you know how they talk about like, I think manifestation right now is like a big thing, like a big word, right? But like during that time, like I remember clearly like playing my mix over and over again in my ear, like, and I wouldn't sleep. I would just listen to it while I was laying down, and like I would imagine myself performing, and like I think like replaying that over and over in my head, like knowing that I'm gonna kill it, like in your brain you can like see yourself like killing it, right? But then like when it actually happened, like it's like it was so easy, because I had done it already so many times in my head. And yeah, visualization. Yeah, what you said, visualization. But it's incredible how your brain can work that way, because yeah, it's like kind of like the law of attraction too. It's like I really was hungry for that first place title, and like to prove myself, like you can do it. Just like, what steps do I need to take to get there? And I think it was like, putting myself in like those like uncomfortable situations. Like, oh, I'm gonna choreograph now, even though I'm a freestyler. Like, I'm gonna start choreographing now. So I'll stay up like from like 10 to 2 a.m. in the morning, and then go to school at 6 a.m. And that whole time from 10 to 2, I was like choreographing or trying to choreograph. Yeah, just cause like I wanted to like get better. Yeah. And then I remember like 2 summers during that time I was taking ballet too. So I was like, if I want to get good, I need to be well-rounded and like learn different styles and understand them, and just like kind of absorb like and be uncomfortable, because ballet is not easy. It's totally opposite of hip hop and crumping and like all the stuff that I was like investing my time in. Ballet was a total opposite. It's like all proper. It's like made for royalty, So it had to be a specific way, and there's no other way around that. You have to do it like this or else it's wrong. But like in hip hop and freestyle and all that, like it's subjective. Whatever you do is okay, Yeah, of course you get better at it, like in terms of like musicality and execution, all that stuff. But I think like going to ballet and learning like the discipline of ballet showed me that I can be disciplined in a style or like in choreography or as a director, you know, like a teacher. Yeah.
What pushed you to do the ballet again?
Battling?
Ballet.
Oh, ballet.
How old were you?
I think it was my teacher, Miss Crawford. She's actually the daughter of the person that created Drill Team. So like she had so much knowledge about dance, and like she had like all these connections to like all these big choreographers, and she had like a bunch of people come in and teach us like she even had like the guy that helped, you know, Planet of the Apes, you know, like not the old ones but like the first ones that started to come out, like
There's like the new series. There's another series? Or?
well, not the older ones like in the 80s or 70s or something like that, the ones like in our generation. So like they're like people, you know, suited up, so like they had to learn how to move like apes, right? And this guy that taught them in the movie how to move like apes came to teach us because we were doing like a jungle routine, right? Yeah, so she had like connections like that, which was kind of crazy to think about. Because yeah, and then another person that came that actually choreographed Michael Jackson's Dangerous MTV Music Award performance. Yeah, he came in and taught us, and he was like super. His name's Mick Thompson. He's like super full of energy, and like I just remember seeing this guy like, what, like, how do you have this much energy? Like, and he was like, by this time he's already like way older. Like, I mean, probably in his 40s, you know, but he had like way more energy than all of us, and we're all like in high school still. So it's like, dude, this guy's like crazy, like, but in a good way, you know. But going back to my teacher, she told me like, hey, like, if you want to be good, like, you can't just like do this, you know, you have to learn everything. Like if you love dance, like dance is all of this. It's not just like I'm gonna be hip hop. And she was like a strong believer in that. So I mean, of course, like at heart I'm still like a freestyler and a hip hop, you know, dancer, like fundamentally, you know, like popping and locking and, you know, a little bit of breaking, but crumping came to do later on. That's kind of like where my heart went for a little while. But in terms of me doing ballet, like, it was definitely her like telling me like, hey, if you want to be good at dance, you got to try everything. You can't just be like, you know.
I have a question. You know that Big Thompson guy, is he like one of the reasons why you teach, like, remember how we were talking about teaching and you were like, sometimes when you teach adults you come like with a big energy? Like, do you think that that's...
You have to be animated because people fall asleep like fast. Especially like with beginner adults, because beginner adults, first off, like, they are shy. Like, they don't, it's crazy because kids are not shy, but adults are really shy because we have like all these insecurities that we build over time, and like all the stress of life, and like all these, you know, all these things that are like constantly running through our minds as adults don't exist in our, like, when we're kids, because when we're kids we don't know nothing, you know. It's like, you know, it's like imagination just goes wild, so we don't fear things really as a kid. But as an adult you have all these things, so like when someone comes to you like with like a certain type of energy, especially if it's your first time taking a class and like there's other people around you that you don't know, you know, it's scary. It's a scary situation. So like you have to be like, you guys have it, you got it, like you can do this, like let's just do one step. Ready? 1. Try it again. 1. All right, you did it. Like, you know, it's funny because I feel like with beginner adults I'm a little bit more animated than I am with the kids. With the kids I could be stern because like if you like, you know, get a little bit loud and like serious with kids, they get, okay, sorry, you know. But with adults, like if you get stern and stuff like that with adults, they get hurt about it. Like they don't see it as like, oh, this kid, like some of them are older than me too, so it's like they don't see it like, oh, he's just teaching me. They're like, oh, he's being hard on me, you know. It's weird. It should be the opposite, right? It should be, but it's funny because we kind of like turn into kids when we get older, in a way.
Like, there's a thing where I guess like even at our age too, right? It's like constantly trying to like reconnect with your child, like that inner child. So
Yeah, definitely.
that just definitely makes sense. It's kind of funny though. That is the way it is.
Yeah. Um, where were we going with that? With the kids? Or what did you ask me before that?
I was talking about, I guess, like your teaching style. I was talking about, like, because you were talking about it earlier. Like,
Oh, like in terms of. Okay. Yeah, I think me as a teacher. Actually, I think that taking steps back, like I think going from high school to like CG and then living that collegiate scene life and then being successful in that, it's crazy because I wanted to win first place and then I wanted to be on CG and then I wanted to be the director of CG and then, you know, I wanted to win first place at least once, which I did. And then, I mean, honestly, the trophies really, looking back, they didn't really matter. As long as I knew we worked hard and we felt good after we got off stage, which sometimes a lot of people didn't feel good. And I don't think it was like necessarily like the dance itself, but it was like a journey that they didn't really like, what's the word? Like something that they felt like their experience wasn't what they imagined it would be, right? And that always sucks because like you go into this team, you think it's going to be a certain way, and then like you kind of set yourself up for you know, like disappointment because you envision something and it doesn't happen that way. But yeah, I feel like learning all of that and knowing like people are all different, because I was a very stubborn director, and I think like when I directed with Gina, like we were pretty mean, but we were successful that year. And I think we had like a hard time communicating as directors in front of the team because like we would banter at each other and that wasn't very healthy. But I think like moving forward from that, like people were hurt by it, you know, and I was like, get over it. I would always say that, like, get over it. Because I had already lived like, you know, probably like 1,000 lifetimes because I had to grow up fast, you know, in my childhood. So when people would complain about like, oh my gosh, I have a test tomorrow, and they'd be like crying. And I'm like, I wish I had a test tomorrow. Like, I wish I had the money to go to school, you know, like, but it's not their fault that they didn't realize it because their experience is different. So I had to like learn as a teacher and as a director that like I have to approach every person differently. Like maybe I could tell this person, hey, get over it, and then like, yeah, whatever, like, yeah, I'll get over it. Why am I acting like this? But the next person over would be like, don't tell me that. Like, you don't know what I'm going through, you know? And their feelings are valid. But I had a hard time like processing that at that age because, I mean, we're kids teaching kids, you know? It was a very interesting time. It was very fast. So I think like, and then being successful in that and moving forward from that, joining Hall of Fame and then becoming like an artistic director of Hall of Fame. Oh, during CG though, I was like doing Maker Empire, which was like a dream team of mine too. Like, I want to be on Makers, I want to be Mischief Makers, you know? And then like, you know, that whole experience is and was like very intense because Bo's a very like articulate person and like director himself. He's a very smart and creative person that I like, man, how do you think of this stuff, you know? And I felt challenged for the first time in a long time because once I was like, you know, third year directing on TG, I kind of like felt like I was plateauing. But then when I started learning from Bo and like all the other people that were on Makers, which were all like people that I looked up to, I was like stressed out for the first time again, and it felt good. Like, it was a good stress, you know? And then, like, you know, then moving on to Hoff after that. At first I didn't want to direct, but then like Hoff is more like the homies, you know, my friends that like we competed against each other in high school. Like a lot of people that was on Hoff, and like just getting to this point of like, damn, we're like old now, and we're still dancing together. It was tight, you know. But yeah, at first I didn't want to direct, but then like that whole thing came back again. Like, hey man, like this is you. Like, you're a director, you're a teacher. Like, this is what you're here for, you know. And I was like very stubborn about it. I was like, you know, I'll just choreograph. I'll just make a piece. And then I remember like my first piece I had collabed with CJ Garcia, and like that piece was just fire. Like right from the get go, like everyone was like, dude, like you guys collabing together, like you're the same person, like styles mesh, like everything felt like perfect. And a lot of people say like that set that we did was a lot of people's favorite set from their journey on Hoff, you know. And I think like that's when it clicked in me, like, why am I being so stubborn? Like, okay, I want to be the artistic director now. Like I was pretty much running it already, you know. And
Where did Hall of Fame, where did it start? Like
so
another thing too that I find fascinating about just SoCal in general is that like people like come out, like teams will be created and then they'll stay, like keep going, but then they just kind of replace the director, artistic director. Like how old is Hall of Fame? How did you?
So Hoff started with Neil Gracia and Carl Flores. They were both on Barcada Modern, but Neil was on CG for a little while too. But yeah, they were both on Barcada Modern, and they're like pretty much best friends. And they decided to make Hall of Fame. And like I think the first wave of Hoff, they had like 100 people on it or something like that. So it was like every person that wasn't dancing on a collegiate team, they're like, oh, you're doing Hoff, you know, which is cool because like, you know, the community was really tight knit during that time, so everyone knew each other. So they had like the perfect timing of like, hey, like let's make this team, call it Hall of Fame. I mean, I don't know how that the name came up or whatever, but I guess I imagine it to be like, oh yeah, like let's make this team together because like we vibe, we're hype. Like Neil and Carl are hype people, like, and they're like, let's just do it, let's be hype, you know. And then they knew everyone, so it was just kind of like easy for them, I guess. And yeah, Hoff, like from when it first started to now, I think like there's a lot of growth in that. Like, of course, like with every team, like it gets more organized and stuff like that. But I think, yeah, Hoff is a very like unique and different, yeah, team, because I think it's different when you get to a point in your dance career when you're like dancing just to have fun, you know. Like I think Makers, it was kind of like that, but it was also very stressful, but like in a good way, where we trusted each other. Like, okay, yeah, this is hard, but we're gonna make a set in 2 weeks, and we're gonna compete with it or something, you know, like crazy stuff like that. But with Hoff, it was like let's dance, you know. It was more like every Sunday we wanted to hang out, but dance was there. Like dance was bringing us together to hang out. I think like the dance part was definitely second, to be honest, until I came along. And then I was like, nah, we're gonna be clean. Like we're gonna look like we're winning the whole competition, but we're doing exhibition still. Like yeah. So yeah. I'm sorry, I think I cut you off.
No, that's crazy. I'm thinking about like the teams that you've come across, and it's like almost every team that I was like, oh my god, like every team that you are on, it seems like you're pushed to like.
Yeah. I also think Criminals like helped me with that a lot too, because it was like, I mean, we started with like 6 people in high school, and then or 7 people. And then that kind of like pushed me to be creative in my own way too. And then it kind of like helped me like learn how to speak more to people that were already doing it. So like I had people that I looked up to, but I was like directing them now, you know. And it was like, yeah. So I think that kind of like helped push me too. And like to like go to all these teams, like do all the other teams. And be like in that position. Grimm's in the timeline was like during high school, after high school, and then still till this day. I'm one of the founders. Yeah, there's 7 of us.
You invited the people that you looked up to, like.
Well, the thing is, like David Lee, he like ran the first thing at Maxed Out, and he, you know, we used the name Criminals, and like we all danced together, and he like introduced us because we weren't in college yet, or in the collegiate scene yet. We were still seniors in high school. He was on TADC, so he like brought all these people that I was like, oh, I seen you like on video, you know, like and we're dancing next to them now. So like I had to like kind of pull up in a way where I had to be like more mature, like watch my mouth, like don't boast, like don't, you know, try to like be humble, sit down, be humble, you know, like.
Did you struggle with that?
I did, because I like during that time I was so hyped, like I was like, yeah, I won first place here, and like me and JT choreographed all these numbers, and we like swept all the competitions, and like, you know, I was like up here in my mind, and then, you know, being like next to all these people, and it's like they pick up the choreography like that, and I'm over here still struggling a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, and then like that pushed me to be like, okay, I want to continue to grow, and I think the leadership was more like where I wanted to like be in, like that position of leadership, and the process to get to that leadership position was to prove myself as a choreographer, because like there's choreo day, right, or like, you know, or would have freestyle sessions too, like as a choreographer and as a dancer. Like if people notice me, it's like, okay, now they notice me, now I want to speak up, you know. And then when I spoke, people listened for the most part. So that's when I knew, like, okay, I think I can take that step forward, and now like I want to run my own project, kind of thing. So then like from that point on, like, you know, I started directing CGE, and like every team that I've been a part of, I've gone to that leadership position. And it's weird because a lot of the times I was like, I'm tired, I don't want to do that anymore, you know, just want to dance. But then it's like, I'm like there at rehearsal, like what are we doing? Like, can we like, come on y'all, like, you know? I was like in my head still, and then they're like, all right, Anthony, there you go, you know, let us know what to do then, you know? And it's like, all right, guys, here we go. So, all right, so I think me being like a perfectionist when it comes to like dance, I think I didn't really have a choice from the beginning. Like God gave me a gift, you know, and I don't think like I had a choice. I have a choice. Like it's always gonna be like where I land as a person. Like dance has brought me to like influence so many people, like hundreds of people, thousands of people, you know, even if it was just for a moment. And I think like no matter how many times I tell myself like I want to stop, or like I want to like just rest and not do that anymore, like I always come back to it. So like, okay, for example, last year during COVID, like everyone was like shocked, like everyone was so shocked, like what are we gonna do, you know? And then like I remember falling into depression. Everyone was depressed. As dancers too, like we can't go dance anymore, you know, like what are we gonna do, like what the heck? And then, you know, I made Community Love Fun, and then like, oh, we can, like that's when like workshops started popping up online. It's like, okay, before I made it though, like the process of that was like, okay, what can I do to help my community and help myself too, because I was broke. Like I was like trying to figure out how I'm gonna get money. I didn't get like money from the government, so I was trying to figure out how can I like get by, but also like help my friends out too that are struggling in the same way. So I talked to a lot of people that I looked up to, like, hey, like what do you think, should we do this, you know? And then everyone was kind of hesitant at first because it's a big thing to spearhead, but yeah, I was just like, no, we're doing it. And I think it's just, again, like that smack in the back of my head, like, hey, like this is your job, you know, you're supposed to do this, you know.
Where's that coming from?
It's a part of me, like it's a part of my like whole being, I don't know. Yeah, so Community Love Fun was a big, for me, it was like a different project. It was still dance related, but it was more business related, and I've never done something like that. But I tell myself like I'm capable, like we can do this. It's not gonna be like something that's gonna fall apart. Because number one thing though, like that I am super grateful for is the people that I surround myself with, because without them, I couldn't do the things that like I want to do, or like I said, like I'm born to do this. I can't do it without interdependence, like, you know, helping each other, asking for help, you know. That's the hardest part, is asking for help. But I think it's necessary for all of us to get through life successfully. You know, we can be independent to a certain point, you know, but nobody wants to be a dependent person either. So interdependence is like, you know, a good balance of that. So I think, yeah, my success goes to a lot of the people that I surround myself with. I think Community Love Fund is a prime example of that, because the people that help me with that, they are all like gung-ho, like, let's do it. You don't have to pay me, like, we're gonna do this for free, we're volunteering, you know, and everything was set up. We got classes, like, we got like a bunch of people teaching. We got like, even Nava Rose did like a TikTok, like, this is how I do TikToks, you know, and like she like a class online, you know, and it was like, it was different. It was new. So yeah, I'm just kind of going off now, but just like talking. Oh, it's because you asked me, like, what do you think it's coming from, right?
Yeah, because I think like
I think it's motivation too.
I mean, like, how? Because like, I mean, I feel like at times I feel motivated. At times I feel like I have ideas that I want to execute, but then that like push that you give yourself, like like how, I don't know, to someone.
I think it's like for me personally, now that I'm thinking about it and talking about this out loud, before you said that, I said, like, you know, that support system too. Like, I think my friends push me. Like, if I had like pessimistic friends that were like, oh, like, I don't know, man, that sounds like a lot, like, I don't know, then I probably wouldn't do it, you know. But a lot of my friends are like, yeah, dude, you've done all this before. Why don't you think you could do this now? Like, bro, like, come on, like, you could do it. Stop, you know. And then that's like, you know, it's a seed. You plant that seed in your head, and it's like it's gonna manifest. You know, you think like, you know, it blooms, it grows, but you have to feed it, obviously.
What would you say to someone who like is kind of like a lone wolf, someone who's kind of like lonelish, or kind of like homebody but still has dreams? Like, do you think that their first step should be
like a homebody? Okay, so that it's kind of a complex question, but I think, like, what would I say to them to help motivate them? Is it
like, or do you think that their first step should be like, oh, like, maybe you should get a support system and put yourself out?
Definitely. Because I like I said, I'm a stubborn person, and I think like if I'm being honest with myself, like, I try to be right 95% of the time. That's a lot, you know. And like, even when other people talk, I'm like, I don't know, like, you know, in my head. But I have to. That was me, like, trying to learn to be open to others. And I think people that are like that, that are homebodies and stuff, they don't want to listen to other people. They don't want help from other people, either because they feel guilty that they're getting help from these people, or they think they're better than that person. It has to, you know, it's one or the other. So, like, I was more on this side, like, oh, I'm better than y'all. Like, I know what I'm doing, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, shit. Actually, I need help. You know, like, you get to this point where you're like, you don't have any resources. You don't have any, like, you know, stuff to utilize, unless like this other person that does have these resources and knowledge can help you, like, to get to that finish line that you're like thinking of, you know. So I think, like, I would definitely tell someone like that, like, we're all capable. We all have bodies and brains, and like, we're all like the same in that sense. It's like what we tell ourselves that would what we tell ourselves is what defeats us in the end of the day, because we are capable, but like, we end up like either giving up or telling ourselves that we're not capable. And again, like, that has to do with surrounding yourself with good people too, because like, you can be in a bad home and your parents are telling you like you ain't shit too. Like, you can't do that. You're not good enough. and that's gonna be stuck in your head. That's a seed. It's a bad seed, you know. It's gonna be repeating over and over in your head. So I think like finding a person or people that can help you believe in yourself. I know it sounds cliche, but I think that's very necessary. Because I think I've. It's crazy to think at this moment that I've done like all this stuff. Like I was telling Sakiko too, like I'm like, you know, this new project that I'm doing with the whole freestyle like battle thing. It's like I've gotten to this point where like, oh hell yeah, I'm doing this. But that doesn't come overnight, you know. That the reason why I feel like that now is because of all the things that I've done. Like I like stopped and I looked back and I'm like, whoa, like I did that, you know.
Like, talk about what the idea is just for anyone who's watching. Like,
Oh, so like I'm planning to do like a all-style battle with the community and like bring in like the street community too, so that we can kind of like intermingle and just like come to, you know, like a consensus that like dance is a beautiful thing, and like even if we're doing street or community or industry or whatever you want to call it, whatever you're doing, you know, dance is like, you know, the main focus of it. And I think battling, for me at least, or like freestyling and battling combined, brings in like an energy that's different in any other like, you know, showcase or competition that I've been to. So I think right now the community needs something like that on both sides. I feel like there's a lot of like unattended like tension between the two, because like, you know, the street dancers are politically correct when it comes to hip hop, because they have the knowledge, they have like the OGs, they have the people that created these things, you know. And then the community is like, oh, we're over here, like we're TikTok famous, you know, like, but it's that's cool too. But it's like there's a lot of hate on that. But I feel like we gotta shift that hate or that angst or that tension between the two, because well, number one, it's unnecessary. Like we can make dance grow if we came together, like even like immensely, you know, in a crazier way. And I'm pretty sure there's pockets of places that have that already, and they're successful, and that's cool, because then like someone in the community that wasn't comfortable with like freestyling or battling in the first place, now they're like, I want to do that all the time now. They found a new love for dance, you know. It's not just like about, oh, I'm gonna take class or I'm gonna be, you know, a competition dancer. It's like now I can battle someone on the street. What about that? You know, now I have that confidence. And then someone on the street can be like, oh damn, this person's like, I didn't know you guys can dance like this, or like, you know, it humbles everyone when you put yourself in that uncomfortable situation, like that, the unknown, right? Because like, to me, that's the unknown. Like I've never seen the two in the same room battling each other. Like I know that it's probably in other places, but I've never seen that in my community. So I want that to happen, and it's going to happen. I just think like I need to, for me personally, I need to like keep talking to the right people so that it can come together smoothly and stuff like that. 'Cause, yeah.
like backtrack a little bit when you said like this idea that you had,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't just like come.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So do you mean like that as in like, as you were saying, your background, or do you mean that the development of that idea and like building the confidence to like just talk about it?
Both. The idea first came when I did UCI All-Style Battle. I was like, this is really dope. Like, why is it just here though? Like, why is it just UCI? Like, I want to battle someone on cookies. Like, you know, like I want to battle 220. Like, come through, you know? And then, like, to me, those were like the heavy hitters during that time. It was like 220, company, cookies, GRV, you know? Like, where are they at? Like, I want to see them in the room. And then, like, I bet, like, if that would have happened during that time, like, all of us would have been like, oh my gosh, like, cookies is here. Like, I'm going to battle cookies right now? Like, what? You know? So, like, that's when it first manifested in my head, or that's when I first thought of it. Like, I can imagine this being a bigger thing. But now, like, getting to a point of my, like, of my age and like doing HHI and like talking to people that, you know, are originators and like, you know, people that have been in the dance community longer than I have, I think like the idea grew into something more important than just like the little battles between the collegiate teams, you know. It grew into like, I want people to be educated while like having that friendly competition and that feeling of like hyping each other up still. I was talking to Al Eng too yesterday, and he was like, oh my gosh, I just like had a brain fart, but we were talking about like the community battling the street, and we're talking about how like that can be like a very like touchy thing too. So we kind of have to like tread lightly. But then I was like, nah, like, why? Like, he's like, I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, we have to be careful because we're going to get backlash too, right? And I get it. But for me, I think my stubbornness is like, we need that. We need to feel uncomfortable. Like, we need to feel and go through that tension, you know? Like, and we need to be corrected. I need to be corrected. Like, I need these OGs to come through and be like, bro, I like what you're doing, but you need this and this and this. You know, I was like saying, like the first thing he said was like, we need more like fundamental classes, bro. We need a b-boy class. Like if you want to do like something like this, like we need to introduce these things to the community through classes too. Not just like, oh, let's battle each other. I was like, yeah, you're totally correct. Like let's do that, you know. Yes.
Have like an opportunity.
Those conversations are much needed, I feel like.
I love that you're, because even when you told me that, I was kind of like, because I've been getting into freestyling too, and so they have like in the Bay they're doing a choreo battle, but it's different. It's not a freestyle battle. It's like a set battle. And I was kind of like, yo, like why is this like that? I want it to be a freestyle battle, and I can approach it as a choreo dancer because I feel like I dance differently, and if I were to dance, I battled before once, and I just felt like misunderstood because my movement isn't fitting into the style of the technique of the style of any style really, and like. But I feel like also like if I went as like I'm a choreo dancer or I'm like a community dancer or whatever, like it would be at least like I could think that I would be able to get understood.
Yeah, a little bit more. Last night when we were like freestyling too, someone had. Oh, we have time. Someone was like, "Hey, what's your style?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a really good question. I don't even know. Like, I mean, I know a lot of styles." If you throw on a house song, like I probably house right now. If you throw on a popping song, I'm pop, you know. Crumping, I could do that. But like, if I play a song that I just want to move to, like, it's a combination of all that. So what is that? You know? And it's kind of like, I think a lot of people, there's a thin line. There's a lot of people stuck in like being like politically correct. You know?
Like I feel like pressure to be, or like feeling like if I don't, I'm not respected.
Right. And I think like it's good to be knowledgeable and it's good to teach the foundations and the roots of everything, right? And I think that's very important so that it doesn't die. But at the same time, like we can't be too hard on the students that we're teaching because they don't know. And also we have to allow them to be free and create new things too. So it's like without getting mad, because like everything's going to evolve and we can't stop that from happening, right? And I think like community dancers, like the way we freestyle is like, oh, we can totally tell they're community because it's like, you know, 1 and 2 and 3 when they freestyle, or like very amoeba, just like move. That's not necessarily a style, but it's still dancing and it's still beautiful dancing, you know. And I think it's worthy of battling, you know, because someone that is a b-boy, like, okay, you can do like a lot of dope tricks and stuff that I can't do on the floor because I'm scared to hurt myself. But like, can you know, move your hips like me, like Shakira? Like, no, because you're stiff as hell. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's the thing. Like, you throw on like a b-boy song, or even any song, like, and the b-boy is gonna battle me, and I come at them with salsa moves. Like, how do you gauge that? You know, it's not about the style per se. It's about the dancer, and it's about how they're executing the moves. You know, and I think like when someone comes in with something new, people don't know how to like. They don't know how to like take it. They don't know how to. They're like, what is this? So it's kind of not appreciated at that moment because it's still new. It's like with anything that's new, you know, like, yeah, anything, like even like pop culture, like even shows, even like shoes, like, remember, yeah, like Crocs, like everyone's like, what are those? And now everyone has Crocs, you know, and it's like, it's crazy too, like Fila, like all these different shoes that people were like, oh, those are Cholo shoes, and now everyone wears them. I'm like, bro, I used to have those all the time for like $10, and now they're like $60 because everyone's, you know, like, but same thing with dance, like ISO and like all that stuff that came out during like America's Best Dance Crew, like it, like when all that stuff came out, like Jabberwockies, you know, like it was like popping, but it wasn't. It was like its own thing, you know, and it's like everyone is like kind of like, oh, like this is weird, like it's not, it's cool, dope, but it's like a lot of people that were in the street were like, oh man, dance is getting like too saturated, or like, you know, it's getting too normalized, and like all these people are like doing like the same style, right? Which in a sense is true, but it's not fully true. It's not 100% true. There is some truth in it, but I think like they get so caught up in that small amount of truth that they don't appreciate like the newness, you know. I think that's what we have a hard time doing just in general, is like the newness of things, like going into like evolving into something new. People are like, it's weird at first. So I think dance right now is in a very, like, for me personally, seeing like how fractured the community is in my like bubble. I don't know how it is in the rest of the country or in the world. I know like social media is making it very popular, but I think it's dancing in general right now, like people that dance, it's like, I think it's like plateauing in a way, like where it's kind of like, okay, like, yeah, I've seen that before, you know, performance wise. It's like, okay, I've seen that, you know, it's cool, it's hype, it's clean, you guys worked hard, it's athletic, you know, it's not easy. But in terms of like uniqueness and like originality and all that, it's really hard to come by now because everyone knows everything, right? But then like when someone comes out like with movement like yours, for example, and they haven't seen it before, they like walk away from it, like usually because they're like don't understand it at first. But then later on they're probably thinking about it like, damn, I can't move like that, you know? But nobody can move like you because you're you. Like, you can learn choreography from me, but you're still gonna move like you. And I think that's the beauty of like how dance is connected to us as human beings, and how our bodies are all different, and our uniqueness in our movement creates like an art form, right? And art is subjective. So with that, like going off of that, like we should be able to appreciate every person's movement, but it's hard because of political correctness, you know? It's hard because we want to think, no, she shouldn't do that, or that guy shouldn't move like that. That's not dancing. You know, we're like, especially people that are like at this level of like, you know, they're already known and famous. Like it's very easy for them to say like, yeah, that kid's like, they think they're good or whatever, but it's not, that's not how you're supposed to do it, you know? And it's like, okay, how are you supposed to do it then? You know, it's a weird time right now. I feel like, I think too, like I get upset because I used to be like that, and I think like I used to be like, no, like you gotta be like this, you know? I mean, every team has like its style, and I think it was more apparent back then, like which team, oh, that's Kaba, that's CG, that's this, you know? Now it's kind of like everyone's like blending, but that's not a bad thing. And I think like a lot of people that are older, like, oh, like, what happened? But it's like, dude, like, you can't be like that, because you have to, if you want to make a difference in like the younger generation, you have to tell them what you know, right?
Pass the knowledge and
Yeah.
uplift them too, and encourage them, especially as like the responsible. You're an older elder.
Yes.
Like you have to take care of your next generation.
Yeah, it's kind of like for me, the reason why I feel like to this day, like my movement and choreography is original, is because like people like motivated me and told me like how they did their things, but I made it my own too, you know. And like I got slapped around a lot too, like, you're not cool, dude. And I think I needed that, you know. I needed that. So now what's happening is like the younger generation, they're ignoring us, or from what I see, they're ignoring us because we're know-it-alls, right? But we're not teaching anything that we know to them. Like, it's kind of like we're walking away. Yeah, it's kind of like we're like, oh, whatever, you're young. But then it's like,
I see that a lot actually, where more older people are like, this is not this, just so you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, what if instead of putting that out, you're like, hey guys, this is what I know. Like,
yeah. It's like how they approach it too. I always say that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because you can come to someone and be like, hey dude, like don't do that, like that's not, you're not doing it right. Or you can come to someone and be like, hey man, like I think you should try this, because it might make what you're doing a little bit better. Or you kind of like, you know, your movement's like kind of the same, maybe you should try doing levels, or you know. And of course people have an ego, and it's always going to be hard to get criticism no matter what. Even dancers, like no matter how long we've been getting criticized, like it's never going to get easier. It's always going to be like, oh, don't tell me that. But then it's like, okay, maybe they're right. For some people it's probably easier, but yeah, going off of that, I think like, yeah, we need to build that bridge again. So, because what's happening, in my opinion, the reason why everything looks the same now is because like the older generation in some aspect doesn't motivate the younger generation in the ways that they should. So the younger generation are just watching and kind of like just recycling, you know. They just like see, and then they're like, okay, I think I could do that, you know. Instead of learning like, okay, how can you do that 1/8 count and drill it over and over again until I feel like it's in my body and normal, you know, like where I master that 1/8 count. You know, it's not existent right now. I feel like even teaching my kids, like they want to be good at one thing. Like they don't want to do anything else. They don't want to do ballet like how it like. I think that's okay in a sense. Like if you want to do one thing, you're gonna get really good at it. But again, dance is like this whole broad. Like you can't just say, "Oh, I'm a dancer," and be like, "I just do this," though. Like this is just my opinion, but I think like being curious about other dancing like styles and like trying it at least, you know, or trying to mimic it, like that's gonna help you become more of a unique, original dancer. You know, and
more about yourself as you go into other worlds of dance.
yes.
Yeah, 'cause each one is like, it's like when you get culture shocked, right? When you go to different country, you get culture shocked, and you learn their beliefs and customs, and you're like, in my world, that's totally weird.
Yeah.
But then you start having like this like appreciation for how different that we all are. You know? And
Yeah.
that helps build the bridge, I guess.
It's funny because like a lot of dance moves, like weird dance moves, like the Dougie and like, you know, like jerking back in the day, like Cat Daddy, all this stuff was like a lot of people are like, that's so weird. And then like 2 weeks later, they're doing it at the club, like, you know, like it's like, dude, you just said it was weird last week. Like now you're hype about it, you know. And I think like, yeah, there's a lot of talk. Like I'll be frank, like there's a lot of talk in the older generation saying like, like everyone looks the same. Like all these new choreographers, they all look the same. They're all trying to be the same. There's no originality, you know, like the heavy hitters like Lyle, you know that's Lyle, or like, you know, Keone and Mari, you know that's Keone and Mari, you know. But even the people that they mentored, like their students are a product of themselves, right? And their students are all original dancers, like all original choreographers. Like now, like you see their students and like damn, like you could see their influence, but they're being them still. You know what I'm saying? You can see Keone's influence on them, but it's not Keone. It doesn't look exactly like Keone. You know? So there's like a lot of people that just jumped into the choreography scene and I want to be a choreographer. And like these are the people that I hang out with, and like, you know, it's kind of like it kind of gets, you guys start to blend, you like start to look like the same thing, you know. And again, I don't think any of this is wrong. I feel like it's frustrating a little bit because I want people to be hungry and be more curious to learn more, because they can be better than that, you know. Like it's not wrong and it's not bad, but like they can be way more unique if they allow themselves to accept other styles of dance. And like again, feeling uncomfortable, I'm always going to go back to that. Like feeling uncomfortable is what got me to where I'm at. Like you can't succeed without feeling like crap sometimes, you know, because that's going to be a push for you to overcome like that feeling like, oh man, I don't want to feel that ever again, you know. So it's like, okay, how do I change myself? Like, how do I change this? Like, you know, you go like for example, I go into a battle thinking like, oh, I'm gonna kill this battle, like these guys are gonna be like, and I go in there and then everyone's like, yeah bro, you lost. You know. And then it's like, oh, okay, so like I thought I was up here, you know, but it's like you can't think like that. You have to think, I need to keep going, you know. There's never gonna be an end. So I think that's what happens. Like again, I feel like is a stagnance. Like there's like a calmness in the community. It's like really quiet, like where it's just everyone's doing these things. Yeah, comfortable. Yes.
I think too, because we don't want to be uncomfortable. Because once we feel that, oh, I'm not there, then we just want to go back here. We don't think like, oh, I'm gonna keep feeling this feeling.
Yeah.
Fuck no. Mental health, anxiety, and shit like that. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done. Yeah, anxiety and mental health, I struggle with it a lot still. But I think realizing for me, my mission now, my new mission in this time in my life, in this like part of my life, I think using dance as therapy is very important, and knowing that dance can heal depression, and it can, I'm not a doctor, but in my experience, it can heal anxiety and depression. Like last night, like driving to this session, I was like, I'm nervous. I haven't seen anybody in a long time. I haven't danced in front of people like in a while. It's cold outside now. Summer's over. Like, it's weird when it's cold. I get more nervous because it's cold. Like, you know, like, yeah, it's weird. Yeah. So, but then I get there and I hear this song and I see you guys and I'm like, oh, let's go. You know, and it's just like all that anxiety and all that stuff was gone. It just disappeared. Because it's like dance, like pulling me, like, hey, move your body, dude. Like, you're good. You know, and I think that comfortable feeling, I'm starting to learn to push myself to keep being uncomfortable, because those are the moments where I grow, you know. Because one thing I hate though is being embarrassed. Like, I hate being embarrassed. Like, I hate someone like calling me out in front of a lot of people. I hate that, but at the same time, it's like that's like my biggest thing that I need to get used to, and I'm conscious of that, right? So when that does happen to me, like even if I trip and fall, like, and everyone sees me, like, oh, I get so embarrassed and I like go to cry and get like, why'd you do this? Like, stupid, you know. But it's like I have to like, look, dude, it's okay. Everyone falls. You know, it's kind of like a metaphor. Like you fall, you get up. You feel like shit when you fall and you're embarrassed, right? But you get up. You're fine now. You're walking. You know. It's only moment like I've been listening to like a lot of podcasts and stuff too, and I feel like a lot of them are around mental health and like motivation and stuff like that. And I just heard one recently like saying like my motivation is like knowing that this is just temporary. Like whatever uncomfortable feeling I have, or whatever anger or pain or whatever like uncomfortable feeling that I'm going through right now in this moment is just temporary. Like, yeah, like I fell down and hurt my knee. It's just temporary. My knee's gonna heal. Everyone's not gonna remember tomorrow that you fell and hurt your knee, you know? But things that are not temporary are what you leave behind, like your legacy. So nobody's gonna remember those times that you, like, you know, embarrassed yourself or you jumped into a battle and lost. I don't think anybody's really gonna remember that. Like, oh, remember when you lost, bro? Remember when you lost that battle? Like maybe I'll remember. Like, it hurt me, you know? But like realistically, people are gonna be like, damn, dude, Anthony battled like all these people, like, and like he killed it. He was like one of the best dancers I know, or I knew, or whatever, you know. So I think like that mindset needs to be implanted into all the new generation right now. And I want to have more conversations like this with the younger generations. I've had like a handful of conversations, and I think they are smarter than me, like a lot of the times. Maybe I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt, but like I feel like there needs to be given respect in that sense, you know. They need that respect, because the reason why like there is this, you know, this line in the dirt is because there's no respect right now, and respect comes with communication, and nobody's communicating. Like
I connected with one of like the OGs in the coffee community. He's like older, and I just started asking him some questions, and then he was like, I like your dancing, I really respect your movement. That was like, I'm still struggling right now with even feeling like I even belong in the freestyle scene. Because like I don't speak the language yet. You know, I'm still learning. I don't even feel like feeling hella discouraged. And when he said that, I was like, wow, that made me feel hella good. Like, I sometimes think that they look at me dancing and they're like, you ain't shit, or like, you think you want to dance this? Like, you don't even know the history of. That's like that's what I think they're thinking when they look at me, right?
See, but those things become your reality,
right?
When you think like that, but they're not real.
Right.
It's not even real.
Maybe it's because like online too, like I see a lot of like elders speaking that way. So when I see an elder in real life, I automatically think that, oh, that person. That's why they call it influencers, I guess, because they really influence people's like the way that they see stuff, and then maybe like the way
how they want to be,
others.
like
Yeah. So I guess like you're right though. It does become my reality, and then it discourages then I become small, and then I dance a certain way because I feel like they see me this way.
We're all at fault for that. Because I think like, oh, like I'm like this older guy in the community. I'm not even that old in the community, honestly. I've been in the community for a long time, but I'm like the baby to my generation, you know. But like when I come around and teach like the younger generation or talk to them, I feel like in my head they're probably like, oh, whatever, dude. I don't want to hear you. Like, bring me someone that I know. Like, I don't know you. Like you taught what? When? You know? And it's like that's what I'm thinking in my head. But then like later on, like one will message me on IG later on saying like, hey dude, like what you said to me like really resonated, and I'm like super happy that you came, and like I never like heard someone like you talk about dance the way you talk about it. You know, it's like, and to be honest, that's why I do what I do, and I think that is that push too, is like when I feel like someone was able to connect to what I'm doing, like that one person out of 30, like it can be that one person that comes up to me and like, hey dude, like I really needed that, Like that's priceless. You know what I'm saying? Like, and yeah, everyone's. It's kind of funny because I always tell my kids like, all right, let's freestyle. All my kids freestyle like crazy. Like they're so down to freestyle. But like in the beginning, or even when I was teaching at Snow Globe, I would warm up with a freestyle, and people were like, "What? I just came to learn. Like, dude, I don't want to freestyle." It's like, no, we're freestyling. Sorry, like, break the ice. You could do it. You could do it. And I would always tell them like, whatever you're thinking right now, everyone's thinking that. Nobody's thinking about you. Nobody's thinking like, oh, this person sucks. Nobody's thinking that. You know what they're thinking? They're like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do when I go in there? So go in there and just move, because like nobody's gonna be like, oh, you suck. If anything, you go in there and do a two-step and hey, they did it, because like at the end of the day, nobody wants to be like that person. I feel like, I believe there's good in everyone.
Just a heads up, we close at 9, and
Okay.
around like 9:15ish, that's when you guys have to start.
Okay, thank you. 4 minutes. I think that was a good
That was good. I love it.
I think yeah, I guess at the end of the day, like, we need to be brave enough to know that like people like want to help each other and want to do good for each other. So I think like just practicing that little thing, like with the freestyle, and like telling them like, look, everyone's thinking the same thing. Like nobody thinks you suck, Having that mindset in a lot of different aspects in your life can definitely like propel you as a person and as a dancer, if that's where your heart's at, Yeah.
Connecting with that like sense of like community.
Yeah, I think that people search for like, where do I belong?
Yeah.
But you already belong. You belong to yourself, belong to this planet, So I think like we're always searching, but sometimes like the things that we're searching for are always there, like right in front of us. But we're afraid because people are gonna judge us or people are gonna say this about us. But it's like all that stuff's not real. It's not. Like, yeah, there's mean people in the world too, but I think there's a lot more good than there is bad.
Yeah, I think so too.
But we gotta believe in that too.
I think people who are mean too are kind of hurt. They're hurt the most.
Yeah. So they need the love the most too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think
Okay. I want to go to the bathroom.
Okay. Do you want me to take this off now or?
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.